Aflamet Bays, and you stopped right in the middle of a sugya, so I'll just bring you up to date. So the Gemara has a discussion. First, we had an argument between Rabba and we had an argument regarding where one person said that this property belonged to my father, and he has witnesses that not only belonged to his father, but he was there for 3 years, the chazaka, that he lived there. The other one brings witnesses that he was only there for 3 years, does not bring any witness that was his father. We had a dispute whether the witnesses contradict each other and then they fall to the side, or whether we say that the part that they contradicted is gone, and the part that they didn't, so the first pair of witnesses that says it belongs to this person's father remains intact. But then the Gemara continued, the other person then found witnesses that it was his father as well. So now we have two witnesses clashing with other two witnesses. What do we do in this case? Nachman said, well, we can appeal the case. So we the ones who gave it to the first person, but now that we have these other witnesses and we don't know who to believe, so therefore we can take it away from the first person and let's say give it back to the second person who was there originally. We'll let them fight it out. So then the Gemara discusses, does the Bezin actually reverse their psak? Because there's a concept about optics. We are very concerned that people will lose faith in the Bezin if today they rule one way and tomorrow they rule another way. And so is there an issue with that or not? And we brought the following case to prove that there's machlekes. Rav Nachman used the following case to prove it's actually a machlekes Tanaim, whether a bezin can reverse the case, and we're not worried about the optics, we're not worried about zilusa the beidin or not. And the case basically was where a person was known to be a kohen, his father was a kohen, he grew up being a kohen, and then a rumor went out, an error. An error is far more than a koil. A koil is merely a rumor. An error means that there's actually one witness or two witnesses came along and said that, that the fact that these are kohen is baseless, they're not kohenim at all. I knew the parents, the grandparents, they weren't kohenim at all. So then we had that Rabbi Yehuda came along and said that a single aid comes along and says that this person is a kohen, ein mailin al pi eidechad. We do not bring say to a person based on a single witness or a lone witness that this person is a kohen. We discussed at the other share that the Ramah Paskas that today maybe it's different because it doesn't affect dinim of the Torah. In other words, duchening and all that is not, it's not like truma from the Torah that applied then or working in the base of Mikdash. Anyway, Rabbi Lazar comes along. We have an argument between Rabbi Lazar and Shimon Gamliel, and we're trying to understand the argument. They're both explaining Rabbi Yehuda, that he says that an eid echad will not be sufficient to verify this person's yichus. So Rabbi Lazar says that's provided there was oir in there. If there was a dispute, if somebody casts some kind of allegation or aspersion of this person not a claim, but if there's no oir in, then single aid is good enough. Comes along Shimon Gamliel and says that you will be Maila Kohen Apei, which is basically the same thing. What are they arguing in? So the Gemara thought that perhaps they're arguing the following case, that we're talking about that you had to have two witnesses in order to be considered an error, where actually we take it into account. It's not sufficient to have a rumor. Even a single witness is not sufficient. If somebody has a chazaka to be a certain way, you have to have two witnesses come along and say, or they're saying, we know that this person is not a kohen. That's called an error, right? Throwing a spanner in the works. So this is what happened. That we all thought the father. This is how the Gemara tried to explain the Gemara. We all thought we knew the father was a kohen. The rumor is that the father married someone he shouldn't have married. He married a divorcee, which Mahater is forbidden, or he married a chalutza, which is only forbidden with Rabbanan. So as a result of that, we said to him, look, we're demoting you. You're no longer a kohen. Comes along one single aid and says, nope, this person is a kohen. So we reinstated him. Then comes along two and says, no, that he's disqualified, he's a chol, his mother was a divorcee, or his mother was a chalutza. So what happened was, in the beginning, we didn't make a psak that he should step aside. We told him, step aside till we verify what's happening. So never was a psak. The first psak we made was a single aid. We said, okay, you're a kohen. Reinstated. Then came along two aidim. Obviously, two aidim quashed his testimony of one aid and said he's not a kohen. So we had no choice but to say that he's not a kohen. When does it look like the Bezin made a mistake? Is when it looks like Bezin made a mistake. But here it's clear what happened. There's a single aid in the beginning, and we followed that. Then came along two aidim, so we followed that. But then what happened was A while later, another single aid came along and said, this guy is a kohen. So now if you combine the testimony of the first aid and the latter aid, the last aid, it's two against two. The first and the last say he is a kohen. The middle one said he's not a kohen. And we know when two against two, we cancel the aidus, you leave things on the chazaka. And what was the chazaka? The chazaka, according to Taisa, was this guy's father was a kohen. According to the Rashbam, the chazaka was that he himself, until this was his identity was questioned, he was a kohen. He behaved like a kohen. So he has his own chazaka. So what's the argument? The argument is that since Bezin demoted him, when the two Adim came along and said he's not a kohen, they demoted him. That was a psak. And now you have two Adim that come along and sit between the first and the last. He is a kohen. If we're going to reinstate him, that's question of, like an appeal. That's elusive the Beidin. It looks like Bezin made a mistake before. It doesn't look right. And that is exactly the argument. Whether Rabbi Lazar says that since that once you set him up, you don't take him down again because he worries about Zelusa the Beidina. And Rab Shimon ben Gamliel says no, that we don't worry about the optics. When now that we have two Adim that say what they say, is that say he's not a Kohen. If two Adim say he is a Kohen, we'll follow the Chazak and say he's a Kohen. And or when I worry about Zelusa Beidina, we'll demote him. Says the Gemara. Maskif Rav Ashi said, I don't believe that this discussion about the Kohen has anything to do with having an appeal and overturning a court decision. I don't think it has anything to do with that. But what is it? I'll tell you why I have a problem with your shot. Because if the point of the exercise is mahi area chad, I feel a bit teinami. Why did you just learn? Two guys came along and said, what do you call it? Two guys came along and said he's not a kohen, and then two guys came along and said he is a kohen. And Bezin Paskin, okay, you can no longer be a kohen. And then two guys a month later came along and said he is a kohen. And the question is, what do we do? Why do you have to learn such a strange case where one kohen came, then two, and then one? It's such a rare case. If the point of the exercise here is that once Bezin issued a psak, and then circumstances change, do they reverse the psak? Whether does it look the imagery of that? Then that should be the discussion. Two witnesses say yes, Bezin ruled based on that. Two witnesses say no. What do we do now? Why talk about such a strange case where one witness came, then two, and then one? So therefore the Rav Ashi says, I believe that the discussion here between Rab Shimon Gamliel and Rav Lazar is totally unrelated to an appeal in a court case. You know what it's related to? Whether you combine two witnesses to testimony together or not. And the basic question is as follows. When does a witness become a witness? A genuine witness? So the Gemara in Makkos Davav and Taisus and Rishonim, they have a long discussion on this very question. When do witnesses become a witness? If they're genuine witnesses, the moment they saw, they become a witness. If they're Eidim Zaymer, they're liars, then they don't become a witness till they actually stand in front of the court because they never saw it. So what makes them a witness? Only when they give their evidence. But a genuine witness, they definitely become a witness the moment that they saw it. But the question is, so when they come to Bezin later, how do we understand that? Is the pshat, they already became an aid when they saw it. And all they're doing now is revealing to us what they saw. So now it's not really the aidis, they're just revealing what they saw because the aidis happened when they saw it. Or do we say that the aidis commences from when they saw it, but if they haven't fulfilled they haven't completed yet their aidis until they stand in the court, and they give their testimony. Because we know that we know that the Eidim have to be together. So if the Eidus is only the moment when they saw it, then that's when they have to see it together, according to these two opinions. They have to see it when they're together, but they don't have to come to court at the same time. You can come on a Monday and I'll come on a Tuesday, because all we're doing is revealing what we saw as Eidus. But if you learn that my standing in front of the court and giving testimony is part of the Eidus, then we have to say it together. We have to be standing in court together. And so machlekes tanoim. And therefore, we're going to say that's exactly the same machlekes here, because the first witness who says that this person is a kohen, and the last witness who said this person is a kohen did not come in together. And the question is, the argument is, do we combine the two witnesses together? So it's 2 against 2, and we'll throw the testimony out of court altogether. Or do we say, no, you don't combine the testimony, and therefore it's basically 2 against 1, and we'll follow what the two say that he's not a valid kohen. That's
but surely the testimony of each of the individual witnesses testifying that this guy is a kohen don't have to have witnessed him performing duties of a kohen at the same time. They could be, or do they, in order to classify them as aidim?
The point here is, okay, good point. The point here is there's two, in the Brisa we're about to learn, there are two separate machlekes. One machlekes is that they have to see the event together or not. And according to the Tana, you don't even have to see the event together, as we'll see in a minute. For example, two witnesses saw, one witness saw this man, let's say called Reuven and Shimon. One witness saw that Reuven lent Shimon money on a Sunday. Another witness saw that Reuven lent Shimon money on a Monday. They did not see the same event, but they're saying the same story, that Shimon owes money. At least each one knows of $100 to Reuven. So they can come to court and give that testimony, and we'll count that as two witnesses. Two witnesses are saying that the guy owes money, even though it's not the same event. It's two different events, but we'll combine that. Now the question is, did they have to come to court together? Even though that they didn't see it together, but the moment that they saw it, they became an aid, and we're saying that's good enough. That's according to that time. In the case of a kohen, it's more a case of there's no ma'aseh that happens, right? There's no ma'aseh that happens. We're talking about, we know the father is a kohen. We know the father is a kohen. So that is a testimony that we know the father is a kohen, and it could very well be, because in the Gemara before it said that they're accusing him of marrying a divorcee, could be that both Adam say, we were at the wedding, and she definitely was not a divorcee, his mother. And could be that's a testimony they're saying. So therefore, the father was a kohen. The father married someone that he is allowed to marry, and they're both talking about the same story, exactly the same story. Because the rumor was that the father married a grusha or a chalutza. Okay, let's see more inside. So my yechad. Why talk about a case where you have one come first and then two and then one at the end? Even if it was 2 against 2, it's the same story. When once Bezin Paskin based on the testimony of the first group, will they reverse that psak when another group comes in? Elam Ravashi. I'll tell you what pshat in this brayse is, and it's totally unrelated to the question about zilusa de bedina. We're not worried about zilusa de bedina. Where, as we say, where there's a clear psak in Bezin, and then there is a clear reason to change that psak, then we'll do it. So what's the argument? Over here, over here, we're talking about whether we combine the first aid and the last aid, whether we combine first aid and the last aid. That's a machlekes. The argument based on the following tonight in the brayse. Tanla the brayse. First part of the brayse is totally unrelated to what we're learning here, but it's part of the brayse, so we're learning it. The Tanakama holds you not an aid unless you both saw the event together. Rabbi Shua ben Korcha says, "Afilu b'zeh achazeh." Rabbi Shua ben Korcha says, even if they did not see the same event, but they saw one after another, it's good enough. That's the first part of the brayse, which is not really relevant to our Gemara here. But ein eidusim is kayemes bebezin acha yiidu shneim kechad. Tanakama said they both have to testify at the same time in order to. Sorry. And getting back to the case of the loan, by the way, I gave a wrong example. It's not that one guy saw Sunday and another guy saw Monday. One guy saw Sunday, Reuven lent money to Shimon, and the other guy heard Reuven went over to Shimon went over to this other guy and said, I want you to know that I owe $100 to Reuven because he lent it to me. They're both talking about the same event, but they did not see it at the same time. We are talking about the same event. We're not talking about a case where I said before I was wrong. We're not talking about a case where he said, one guy said I lent you Sunday, one guy said I lent you Monday. It's two different stories. We're talking about the same story, but we didn't see it the same way. You saw the event, and I heard the borrower admitted to me that he owes the guy $100. So then we combine the two Edison as if it's one, two people as if it's one. But anyway, the main thing is, do they have to come to court and testify at the same time? I'm sure Megarcha says, the Tanakama says that Edis is not a valid Edis unless they both come to court at the same time, because coming to court and repeating or relaying to us what actually they saw is all part of the Edis, and Edis have to be together. And Rav Nassan says, no, Shaymin Dvarav Shazeh Hayim, the Edis took place at the time that you saw, not at the time that you say. And there's a big nafkamin halacha. I'll just give an example. What happens if a korav or a apostle, if they see together, then it passes the whole edus. What happened? The korav apostle only comes to court together, and what happened? The korav apostle saw together with the edim, but they don't come to court. They don't show up to the court. Does that, in other words, if you have a group of Adim, 5 or 6, we can learn more Makkah that you have 6 Adim together, one of them turns out to be a relative, or one of them is disqualified, it ruins the entire Adis. So what happens if a number of people saw an event, and one of them was a apostle or a Karev, and then, but they never showed up in court. The only ones that came to court were the qualified witnesses. Do we say that they're apostle because in the group was a Karev apostle? If you learn that the entire Adis happens at the time that you saw, then we don't care if you end up in court or not. Maybe disqualify the whole Adis. But if you learn that the Adis starts when you saw, but it finishes when you come to court, then they don't show up in court, no problem. And this is the big nafkamin halacha when you go to a wedding. And you have at a wedding, you have a number of relatives who are standing there watching. And if ever is a question about this shidduch, nobody's going to call in a relative to come to court. But do they disqualify? And because of this big machlekes I just told you right now, according to those who hold that the witnesses are, as soon as you saw you become a witness, then it's a shaila in all weddings. And that's why we say at weddings today, you two are the shluchim in exclusion of everyone else. That's to follow those opinions that say that anyone who just happens to be there is already a problem. The other Rishonim, they have the Ritva and others, they have no problem with it because they say that you become a witness not just when you saw it, but also when it continues on until you front up to the bezin and you repeat what you saw. That's part of the edus. So if they don't show up in bezin, there's no problem. It can all be there. You don't have to say to the exclusion of all witnesses. But we're just doing that to accommodate all the different opinions. Anyway, next thing. So Gemara continues learning a number of cases of chazak. Ahudam lechavri. A person says to his friend, "My boy, what are you doing in my property?" Amalei, what am I doing? I purchased from you the hashtara. Clear, my contract. I mean, this ideal proof. Here's my contract, my deed. I own this property and I bought it from you. Amalei. So the guy counters, the supposed vendor counters, shtar zayafu. That's a fraudulent shtar. It's a fraudulent shtar. Now, this shtar standing in front of us is actually, it looks real. And according to the Rishonim, they were mekayim it, that they verified the shtar in a bezin with a stamp of a bezin, but the supposed vendor, claimed that the shtar is false. Now, of course, we wouldn't believe the vendor, especially if it was a shtar mekuyim. But what happened here was he bent down, lochish le Rabba, he whispered into Rabba's ear, he's right. Shtar zayafu, it's a fraudulent shtar. What happened was I used to have a kosher star, but I lost it. And I know that this guy is a very difficult guy, and he's going to come and claim that the field is his. I thought, since I know that I am the true owner of this property, and I used to have a star, so I thought, I will produce this star, do anything to prove that I am right. And we're talking about here that he wasn't there for 3 years in the land. Because he was there 3 years in the land, he doesn't have to produce a star at all. Just say I was here for 3 years and I bought it from you, that'll be enough. So he wasn't there for 3 years, so he needs the star to prove that the property is his. Now this is what happened. He admitted that the star was fraudulent. 3 opinions in the Rishonim exactly what he means by fraudulent. According to many Rishonim, it's not really fraudulent. It was a star amana. A star amana is a star that we learn in Ksuvas you shouldn't really write. It's a star where you're writing in case you change your mind and you prepare to sell the property and I'm scared you'll get cold feet. I have the star ready, and it's a star on faith. I have the star ready, so the moment you say yes, we can sign the documents, because otherwise it takes a couple of weeks till we get lawyers to sign the documents, and by then you might change your mind. Now, you really shouldn't have that because it's dangerous. What the other guy can claim that it happened already, even though it never happened. The event never happened. So, but a star amon is not really a fraudulent star. It was signed, the proper witnesses, everything was done correctly, except it didn't happen yet. The event hasn't happened. Other Rishonim learned that that he actually hired false witnesses. He produced a false star. Everything was false. And others say, no, he replicated the original star because there was really a star. He replicated it and he forged the signatures of the Eidim, and it looked so authentic that the original Eidim said, yeah, we remember the star, we recognize it. The problem was that he admitted that it's a false star. It wasn't really the right star. But he has a very strong migui. He has a very powerful migui, which means if he was really a liar, then why bother admitting? Everybody thought it was a real star. It was verified and certified in a bezin. He could have kept his mouth shut. So he has a very powerful migui. So what do we do in this case? Why would he lie? If he wanted to, he could have just continued along the same line and say, this is a valid star. And it was verified according to the Rosh and many others. So therefore it's good enough. Rabbi Yosef says, no. Amai samchid, what are you relying on? Okay, what's a migui? A migui is that we're saying that whatever it is I'm using is good. The migui is if I'm a liar, I could have had a bigger lie. So therefore, what I'm saying now is correct. But what makes the property his? He doesn't really own he doesn't have a chazaka. It's all about the star. But he's telling you the star is false. A high star, but a high star chas with a piece of clay. So we believe you. What do we believe? It's a piece of clay. So now, why isn't the migu working here? What exactly is Rabbi Yosef saying here? Rabbi's right. He has a powerful, and it's very compelling, and it's very cogent here that that we should believe him, because if he was a liar, why admit to a fraudulent star? So what's Rabbi Yosef saying? So there are many different ways of understanding the Gemara. The Rivam learns that this is the concept called a migui lohaitzi. A migui is only, which I guess is a logical verification, only works to support you if you already have the object with you. So this is a sufficient grounds to say, let it remain with you, and let the other person bring a stronger proof to counter that. But to use a migui to extract from someone, a migui is not powerful enough, because the other person has what we call a cheskes mammon, because the possession is 9/10 of the law. Now, when it comes to property, even though I'm standing in the property, but because I wasn't there 3 years and property cannot be stolen, and everybody remembers that this person, the other person, the vendor used to own the property. So therefore, who is the mitzi here? Not the supposed vendor. The mitzi here is the buyer who has no proof that it's his. And therefore, a migui is not sufficient to prove it. That's what the Rivam says. Other Rishonim say the Gemara doesn't say this. So why you're throwing in a new concept here? Nowhere does the Gemara talk about migui lahaitzi. The Re says the problem here is the only way this migui works is if the argument you could have said is a lie. No, how does this migui work? You have to come in. Your taina that you're using is a false taina. I'm coming with a lie, and the migui is I could have said something that would have people would believe me, but it's all based on a lie. Miga normally is I say I paid you back. You say you owe me $100, and I say I paid you back. The miga is I could have said I never borrowed, which would have been stronger. Okay, so what I'm saying right now, I paid you back, is the truth. Over here, what I'm saying now is here's my star, but that's a lie because it's not a star; it's a fraudulent star. So a miga cannot support a lie. That's what doesn't work. Or the migi is here where you're contradicting what you're saying. I'm saying here's my star, and the migi is that I'm saying it's a false star. Migi is I could have said it's a kosher star. The migi is contradicting what I'm saying. Anyway, that's the Rashbam, however, wants to say that the problem over here is that since I'm admitting that this star is false, my admission is equal to two witnesses saying the same thing. So it's as if two witnesses saying that this star is false. And you want me with a migui to say that it's as if the star is real and I purchased the property. You cannot have a migui against Eidim. We had before. You cannot have a migui, and we'll have tomorrow again. You cannot have a migui that goes against Eidim. And because you can't, because Eidim is much more powerful than a migui, and since a migui cannot go against Eidim, that is the logic here why your migui doesn't work. Because it's as if there are Eidim and this star is false, and my migui is saying, "Oh, I could have said nothing." So therefore, even though the star is false, let's make believe it's real. How can a migui go against the Eidim? That's what the Rashbam says. So really, if you break it down further, this is really what's going on here. When you have the property and then you have a star, how do we understand it? Is the pshat, the property is mine because I bought it, and the star is merely a proof that it's mine, or the star is real, makes it mine. So the Rashbam is learning that the star is what makes it mine. This contract is what makes it mine. And therefore the Migri and the Edom are clashing. The Migri says that the property is mine, but the Edom saying the property is not yours because there's no star in it. It's a fraudulent star. And the Migri clashing with Edom, the Edom always come up triumphant. However, the other Rishonim, who none of them agree with the Rashbam, because they understood that the property is mine because I bought it. The star is there merely to corroborate that. So the migli is not here to help me, the star. The migli is to say that the property is mine because I bought it. And you have a problem. You have Adim that the star is not good enough. But the migli is not clashing with the Adim. The migli is talking about the property, ownership of the property, and the star is a separate matter altogether. And in this case here, because the migli is strong enough to say the property belongs to me, we should have followed the migli, if not for the other reasons we just said before. Anyway, so Machlek is Rabbi Rabbi Yosef. So let's move on.
Can I just also clarify? I mean, he's coming after the fact that everybody around the table has verified this document.
Yes,
the purchaser, 100%. The seller, and the Adim, and everybody agreed. So now they've all agreed that he owns the property.
No, you all agreed that this star is valid.
Which means that he owns the property.
That's a consequence. They all agreed that this star is valid. The way the Rashbam learns, the only ownership of what makes the property yours is this star. And they all agree the star looks valid, is valid. But the moment you came along and said the star is not, and Haidoz Baldin Kemei Edom, as if we have two Edom standing here and saying this star is not valid. So you have nothing left. What makes the property yours? You had no chazaka. You went there 3 years. You did only 2 years or 1 year.
Yeah, but everybody around the table has been moided to the fact that this exists.
The moided to what? The moided that the star is real, but he comes along and he says it's not. So at best it's 2 against 2, but it's not even 2 against 2 because what we have here is your migui that you could have. So we want to use your migui to clash with your edus. It doesn't work. That's the Rashbam's view. There are other Rishonim say the star is not what makes the property yours. The star is a proof that the property is yours. What makes the property yours is the fact that you bought it, that you said it's yours, and therefore the migui should have worked. And the only reason why it doesn't is because the migui lohaitzi or that, all that kind of stuff. Okay, you ruined it yourself when you open your mouth. That's case number 1. Case number 2 is identical, but instead of talking about property, we're talking about money, a loan, and goes as follows. Let's get more. Yeah, a guy said to his friend, "Havli meyazuzah masiknabo. Give me the $100 that I lent you. V'hashtar, and here's my proof. I have a contract, a loan contract that I lent you $100. On Malay, the borrower said, "Shtara zayafu. It's a fraudulent star." Gochin, so the lender bent down. Lochish leila Rabbi whispered in Rabbi's ear, yes, Shtara zayafa. Yes, it is a fraudulent star. Miu shtara ma'al yahavli. I did have a proper contract, loan contract, but I lost it. I mean, and I thought, I know for a fact he owes me the money, and I used to have a document, but I lost it. So I thought, you know what? Let me have something in my hand, something to make the case a lot easier and seamless, and I won't have to sit and argue with him. So the same thing, the same argument. He has a good migui. The lender wanted, he could have just said, it's a good start, and we would have believed the lender because everybody recognized the signatures and so on. And Rabbi Yosef, what are you relying on? The star. Chasbam was a piece of clay. Rav Idi Barovin said, Rabbi Yosef said the follows. De Rabba Ba'ara. In the case of the land, we're going to follow Rabba that that we say that he has a migui, and we will leave the land where it is. The Hilchasa Kavasa de Rabbi Yosef Bezuzah. When it comes to the case of the money, in other words, in the case of the case of the land, we're going to say that he has a migui. It's as if the contract is a valid contract, and we're going to leave it with the buyer. But when it comes to the case of the loan, the lender has the contract. There, we're going to say we're not going to believe the migui of the lender at all, and he cannot collect the money. Now, what's the logic in that? Either we have a migui, we don't have a migui. Says what as follows. Over there, it's a question we view this is how most are trying to learn, not so much Rashbam. We view the person who's residing in the land as if he is now the person, he is now the muhsik. The vendor, he wants the land back. We'll call him the moitzi. And a migui supports the muhzik does not support the moitzi. So who is the muhzik in the case of the property? The one who's there right now. And therefore, and he has a migui. He could have kept quiet, and the shtar that he bought the property would have been good enough. So we'll leave the property where it is. But the hilchos kavas Rabbi Yosef, when it comes to money, we follow Rabbi Yosef. Why? The heicha de kaima zuzi lukme. Over there, who has the money? The borrower has the money, and you want to extract the money from the borrower. The lender is the moitzi. And since all you have is a migui, because you agree that the shtar is no good, all you have is a migui. A migui is not powerful enough to take money out from the other person. So that's the difference. The Rashbam learns more that we're not paskening here. Rashbam says, because we don't know who's right between Rabba and Rab Chizda, so we always leave things where they are right now. It's more like a suffix rather than a psak. That's how the Rashbam learns. Okay, the Gemara continues. The Gemara continues on from the story and goes as follows. That's the Gemara. Ahu arva. So there's once this guarantor. Now there's different kinds of guarantors. There's a general guarantor. There's an arv kabbalah. A general guarantor is that I'm trying to help my friend out. He should be able to obtain a loan. So I said that if he doesn't pay, I'll pay. But the lender has no right to go to the guarantor. He has to first go to the borrower. If the borrower does not have the means to pay, only then does he have the right to go to the guarantor, unless it's an arv kabbalah. An Arav Kablan is where the Arav takes upon himself that you can come to me first. If it comes the due date, you can come to me first. So that's the case we're talking about over here. Lahu Arva, you had this guarantor, the Amar Leila Leiva, he comes to the borrower and he says to the borrower, Havli meyazuza the paraiti lemalda yilavach. I paid on your behalf to the lender. You owe the lender $100. You know what happened? He came to me first because he was allowed to, and I paid him out. And then as a result of that, he gave me the shtar here to prove. Why do I have the loan contract in my possession? Because to prove that I paid it off. Now you owe me the $100 that I paid on your behalf. Amalei, he said to him, yes, but la praticha. And this happened a while ago. I already repaid you. Why should I pay you again? He said back to him, it's true, you paid me back, but immediately you went ahead and you borrowed the money again. Why do I still have the shtar? Why didn't we rip it up? If you paid me back, why didn't we rip it up? You know why? Because then you asked me a favor, you know what, you still need the money. Can I lend you that $100 or lend you $100? So I said, fine, and I'll keep the shtar as proof that you owe me money. So you still owe me the money. Now, so the question is, what do we do in this case? Now, this Arav has a migui. The Arav could have said, you never paid me back. Here's the shtar, you never paid me back. So Sholcha Rabbi Barav Rabbi Barav asked Abaye a question. In this case, now we just had a case between an argument Rabbi Yosef, where we say this migui, he could have kept quiet. Here we have a case. Here's a shtar, and the shtar looks valid, and he could have said that the Arav could have used the shtar to collect from the borrower. But he was made that the shtar is not valid anymore. He's made it and look, this shtar was actually paid up. But because I lent him the money again, so therefore I decided to use the shtar, or we agreed to use the shtar. So it's very similar to the case before where the lender disqualified the shtar. And we had an argument, Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi says, well, the lender has a migui, could have kept quiet and the shtar would have been, would have been valid. And Rabbi Yosef said, but at the end of the day, it's working with a shtar which is not valid. So it's the same thing. And Rav Idi Bar Oven was the one who made the ruling before, but now his queries as follows. He said to Baya, what would it be in this case? I don't understand. My teboile, what's your question? What's your question? Didn't you say the Rabba Be'ara? You said when it came to land, then the loch like Rabba that the migui is supporting the muhsik. But the Hilchos HaKavah said that Rabbi Yosef is when it comes to money, Allah, Rabbi Yosef, that the lender cannot use the migger to extract money. The Heichadu Ukme Zuzah, wherever the money is, Lukme, let it remain there. So what exactly is the question? What exactly is the question? You rule when it comes to money, the halacha is like Rabbi Yosef that you cannot use a migger to take out. So the same thing over here. V'hani mili. So what is this? The difference here is what I really thought that maybe it's different, is different explanations. That the difference over here is because the shtar was a real shtar. And could be, we're talking about a case here where he lent him back the very same money that the borrower gave money to the guarantor, and then he borrowed that very same money back. So because it's the very same money back, maybe the shtar is still valid. It's like reinstated. Even though we know generally when a shtar is paid off, you can't use the same shtar a second time. But the shibud, the dates are all wrong. Because the shtar has a shibud, a lien on the properties, and it has to be the right date. And because it's being react. But here in this case, maybe we can consider it as if you never paid me back. Could I give you back the same money? That's sort of his question. So Abai says, doesn't matter. The moment he paid it back, even though he gave him back the same money, when he paid it back, the shtar now is dead in the water. And therefore the shtar is no good. And you want a migui that he's telling the truth, migui cannot take out money. But then Abai continues. That's only provided he said, can I borrow the money back from you again? But if the guarantor says to here, take your money back, the images on the coins is being erased, people are not going to accept this currency. It's falling apart, it's fading, or it's getting fashav, getting all rusty. It's not any more acceptable currency. It'll be very difficult to find a money tender or whatever it is, someone who's going, a money exchange who's going to use this cash. So therefore, I'm not accepting this payment. If he said, I'm not accepting this payment, take your money back, then the shtar is still active. And then the lender can use that shtar to collect. Akati the shibuda the shtar, and the shtar is still active. Gemara now tells another story. Bava Basra Daf. You remember looking about Metzi and Eza Neshek that you're not allowed to take interest back. You're not allowed to take interest from the borrower, obviously. And this, we're so careful, you're not allowed to even squat in the borrower's house, even though the borrower doesn't charge any rent. And nevertheless, you're not allowed to squat in the house because it looks like you're getting some kind of benefit, and that's all that is interest. But we did learn there's a concept called a mashkanta de surah. Mashkanta de surah is an arrangement where the lender says to the borrower, I'll tell you what, you owe me $1,000. I'm going to take this field from you, and we're going to fix amount every year, regardless of the yield, whether it's a good yield or a bad yield. Every year, I'm going to deduct $100 from the loan. So at the end of 10 years, I'm going to return to you your property, and you don't owe me any more money. And it's not interest. It's not considered interest because there's a risk on the lender's part. What happens if the bad seasons and he gets nothing from the property? So it looks more like a business deal. And that's called a mashkanta de surah. So what happened was that the Bava Basra Daf, nothing, and he had one of these properties, a mashkanta de surah that he had arranged with this person from this Yisrael's father. And there it said, at the end of a certain time period, whatever the time was, the field automatically goes back to the borrower. And what happened was he was there for more than 3 years. He had a chazakah. If he was a real liar, and people forget over time, and the father died, he could turn around and say, look, the field is mine. I bought it from your father. But harai, I'm here 3 years. I've been eating here the produce. It's mine. And I bought it. I lost the contract because after 3 years, you lose the contract. But what happened was, a rumor started to abound that this person is continuing to hold on to this mashkanta, the surah. The time expired. He should have returned the field back to the orphans, but he didn't. He kept it. So, and rumors started to abound that he has no right to be in that field. Now, what happened was, Bava Basra Daf had a reason why he kept onto the field, because there was another loan outstanding. He had another outstanding loan that the father owned, and he didn't have any security against that loan. The din is that the Yisraelim don't pay their father's loans or mother's loans unless there's interest taking place. So it's going to be very costly for them to wait till they grow up. But if there's an ordinary loan, they don't take back the father. They don't have to pay the father's loan till they grow up. And there's a machlekes between having or erchim between Rav Papa and Rabbi Huna Braid of Yeshua. Why? We also had in Ksubas that Peva. Rab Papa says because Yasmil Lav B'nei Mevedisnu. He said, why do you have to pay back a loan at all? If somebody lends somebody money, why do you have to pay back? So Rab Papa says the only reason why you have to pay back is because it's a mitzvah. Free is Bal Chayiv mitzvah. And orphans who are children, Yasmil Lav B'nei Meved Mitzvah. They're under Bar Mitzvah, under Bas Mitzvah. They don't have to do mitzvah, so they don't have to pay the loan back. That's the view of Rab Papa. Rab Huna Braid Rav Yeshua says, so therefore you cannot approach them until the post when they're older. Rab Huna Braid Rav Yeshua said, no. We are worried. No, really they owe you the money, and really they should pay you. But their children don't know. Maybe the father or mother gave you a mashkin, gave you some kind of security, and you already got paid. And they can't defend themselves. They have no idea. Once they become bar mitzvah, bas mitzvah, you can actually approach the Yisayimim and collect. But we had the payment base. You have to swear. Without a shvur, you cannot collect. So what he did here was he didn't want to hang around until the bar mitzvah. Maybe the kids were 2, 3, 4 years old. He didn't want to hang around till then. So therefore, what he decided was he'll keep the mashkin for another 2 or 3 years. He'll write off the rest of the loan, the other loan, which he has no mashkin for, and otherwise we'll have to wait till the bar mitzvah and bas mitzvah. You don't want to wait that long. So the Havel Zuzach, he had other money, and he thought he'll use the years of mashkanta, another couple of years, and then he'll write off the whole debt. Amina, and I thought, if I give the property back when it was due the first time to the Yisayimim, and then I will tell them the Isli Zuzah Achrina Gabi Davuch, and your father owes me another loan. What could be the din then? But the halacha would be the only way that I can collect Yisayim is by swearing, and I didn't want to. Ella, now even though what would he gain by waiting till after mitzvah? Even then, I have to swear. It's not so much the swearing; it's more the time. He has to wait another 10 years. Ella ach mashkanta. Let me conceal the fact that I'm sitting in this property because it's a mashkin. And I'll continue here consuming the produce until it equals the amount of money they owe me, and that's it. Now the migui, the ibeina, and I have a migui because I've been in this property more than 3 years. What would be if I would turn around and say I bought this property and to support me I have 3 years? I have a valid migui. The ibeina, if I wanted to, I could have said the kuchi biyadi. I could have said I purchased the property. Is mehemna, I will be believed. So now instead, I'm saying your property is really yours, but you guys owe me another $500. I'm going to keep this for another 5 years to write off that loan. Mehemna should be believed. So Rabbi Shashim was not made a big time chacham, and that was the basis for what he did. Because I have you have to believe me because I have a migui, and therefore I don't want to wait till they grow up. I can't wait. And he decided he said I could have hidden the shtar. If I don't hide the shtar, then everybody knows the mashkin. And once you've entered a property as a mashkin, he can no longer say, "Oh, sometime in the middle, I turn around and I bought it." You no longer believe. If you enter the property in a legal way, then you no longer have a chazaka. All you have a chazaka is that if you're a liar, then you're there illegally, and the person should have protested. If he didn't, it's it's yours. But if you had a right to be there, why would the owner have protested? So there's no chazaka here. So you had to conceal or hide the fact that this property originally was a mashkin. The Gemara says the obvious question is, what would he gain? He would anyway have to swear because we have a thing called the shvuas hesses. Even if he would hide the thing and he would say there's a whatever he said with the migu and everything else, is I'm holding it. He would have to swear that the guy still owes him, even though he has a migu, he still has to swear. Rav Nachman Shmur Shvua says that every time somebody denies something, then there's a shvua involved, shvua with the rabbana, shvuas hesed. So what would he have gained with this whole exercise of the migu? He still would have to swear. The only thing that he would gain is that he wouldn't have to wait, because if he waits till the bar mitzvah, bas mitzvah, he would have to swear as well. So there's no difference now or then. The only difference is, why wait till then? I might as well try to get it now. That was his strategy. Comes along Amalei. So Abaye said to him, you could not have said that you actually bought it. Why? Because there's already a rumor out there. Because there's already a rumor out there that that you bought it, that you came to you as a mashkin. You no longer say, "Oh, I have a migli. I could have said I bought it." No, you couldn't, because everyone knows it came to you as a mashkin. Big according to Tais and other Rishonim, if Itaka would have said I bought it, if he would have said I bought it after he hid the star thing, and there's only a rumor out there that it came to him as a mashkin, that's all we have, no witnesses, just a rumor. And if he would have claimed I bought it and he had a chazaka, we would believe him. But as a migli is he could have said that we don't believe it because maybe he didn't have the chutzpah, maybe he didn't have the guts to say that I bought it when you know that everybody is talking and everybody thinks that the property belonged to these kids' father, poor kids, the Simon, and now you're going ahead and you're saying that it was yours all along. So you don't have the chutzpah to do that. But if you actually did have the chutzpah, you said I bought it, then you would be believed. The Rambam disagrees. Anyhow, so Rabbi said to him, Zil ahadre nelim. He said, you have no choice. Give the property, return the property back to the Simon, and you gotta wait. When they grow up, then you'll take them to the Torah, prove that they owe you the money, and you'll have to swear, and then you can collect. And this ruse of